As we all know, there is of course a whole multiverse of Matpat variants, and I decided to catalogue as many as I could find, so without further ado, Matpat, Pat Matt, Matthew Patthew, Funky Pat, Matrick Patrick, Maddie Paddy, Dad Pat, Animat Pat. Matt made a video on Sonic lore, and as keeper of Sonic lore here in my credentials, I deem it to be mostly lore accurate. Although he did bring up Sonic 06 unnecessarily, which is weird and rude, like if I unprompted brought up the Sans SNES theory. Pat. That wasn't a tangent, that was a Matpat variant, I swear. Walt Pat, Jesse Pat, Breaking Pat, Mirror Matt, aka the strange voice in his head, Ash, his therapist trying to get through to him and those mysterious voices, Fat Pat, Fit Pat, Jiggly Pats?
We got my Jiggly Pats!
Symmetrical, Matthias Pathias, JPEG Pat, Mac, also happens to be one of the connecting points between the Matverse and Markverse. Holy crap, Pat. Also uncomfortably known as Scat Pat. Mario and Luigi Bowser's Inside Story is the greatest game ever made. Whereas Part 2 Pat, thought that I'm one to talk, I still can't figure out how to make that correct Sonic timeline vid. Purple Pat, aka Aft Pat. Based Pat?
I'm excited to see Metal Sonic in a future game, or in a future movie. He's actually one of my favorite Sonic characters.
Cringe Pat.
Considering that the only memorable thing about Sonic Rush Adventure for DS was the boating minigames.
No amount of bad jokes are as cringe as bad media takes. Cat Pat. Rat Pat. Rad Pat.
I just simultaneously whipped and nay-nayed!
Rad Pat. A lay Pat with weirdly luscious lips that kinda make me uncomfortable and I don't know why. Mad Pat. Reasonable Pat, who is yet another connection to the Markverse. Hat Pat. John Pat. I know what you did, Matthew.
That's the guy, that's the game theory guy I killed off to get this gig.
John Pat?
John Pat. Yeah. He
Wow.
wasn't really cutting it in the early days.
Squirrel Pat. Yet another connecting point to the MCU. That's Markiplier's cinematic universe for the uneducated among you. Anyway, if Matt stares into the abyss long enough, you get Dead Pat. He probably died from being objectively wrong about Sonic Rush Adventure. Meta Pat.
Everyone's all hyped about Mirror Matt lore and Ash lore. What about the various personas of Matpat?
Which Matpat speaks to you the most? Answer in the comments below what is your Spirit Mat. By the way, Spirit Mat is this. Quail Pat?
God bless you, Quail Pat.